All right, guys. Quick little ways to protect your peace, to protect your happiness. Well, number one, you have to do what we discussed in the other video. You gotta know what makes you happy and what doesn't, what you're willing to compromise on, what you're not willing to compromise on. You gotta know those things, or else you can't protect your happiness because you don't know what makes you happy. Okay? You can kind of tell when you're faced with those decisions like we discussed before. Is this a decision that's going to make me happy? Or is this a decision that I'm not happy making? Sometimes you will be faced with very difficult decisions. And it may seem like no matter what decision you make, you won't be happy. That could just be from your viewpoint. Are you being negative about the situation as a whole? Are you being negative about both of the options before you? Is there potentially a third option, or a fourth option, or a fifth option, or a sixth option? Sometimes there's like 12 different options. Don't worry about what it might do to the other person or the other people involved when you make this decision. That is sometimes why we struggle making the decision, because we're worried about what's going to happen to the other party when you make that decision. That's the problem. That decision should concern you and you only. I understand those of you with kids, you got a little more to think about there. But at the same time, it's the same thing. If you're going through some tough times and you're thinking that this, might be the end, then you need to think about what's going to make you the happiest. Don't think about the kids yet. Don't think about the husband or soon to be ex-husband or whatever. Don't think about that just yet. If you could, what would make you the happiest? I'm not saying ditch your kids, but if that's something that comes up, don't be afraid to really think about it. That doesn't mean that you already made the decision, but think about it. It's okay to have those thoughts. It's okay. Again, thoughts are just thoughts. It's not wrong for you to explore those kinds of possibilities. If you do explore that possibility and you know for a fact that leaving your children is not going to make you happy, then you already know immediately leaving your children is not it. You've got to, sometimes we have a decision and part of the decision makes us happy and the other part doesn't. That's when it comes down to what are you willing to compromise on and what are you not willing to compromise on. Maybe you're faced with a situation of the husband doesn't want to be with the kids anymore. Let's just say they're not cut out for this. They can't handle it. They'll pay you child support, but they don't want to deal with the kids. Okay, obviously someone's got to deal with the kids. And let's just say that's something you're not willing to compromise on. You want your kids. You want to be with your kids. Well, then comes that painful decision of leaving your husband. That's not an easy thing to do, especially if the only reason is he just doesn't want to be a dad anymore. That is an example of a decision that makes you happy but also makes you not happy. Because you're not willing to ditch your kids. You're not willing to do that to them. That is something you will not compromise on. You will not save your relationship with that man and at the sacrifice of your children. So that's why it's important for you to understand what you're willing to compromise on, what you're not willing to compromise on. And you need to be solid in that. You can't break that for anyone. Not even yourself. You need to be 100% in that. When you know these things, it's easier to protect your peace. It's easier to protect your happiness because you will know right away Stop right there. We're not getting into this. We're not having this conversation, or, you know, hey, I can't listen to this right now. I have my own things going on in life. I'm sorry. I can't listen to your troubles right now. I can't listen to your worries right now. Like I said before, stop watching the news. Unfollow those people on Facebook and on Instagram that are constantly sharing negative things. I don't care if it's your best friend. Get rid of them. That's not good. Or maybe help them realize that's not good for them to be doing either. And help them, to maybe not do that, or maybe sit there and tell them, like, hey, I've noticed you've been very negative lately, you've been very down lately. Have a discussion with them, see if there's anything that maybe you can help them with. And if not, then you might need to ditch that friend. Or you might need to spend less time with that friend. Or don't go visit that relative, because the moment you visit that relative, you are sacrificing your peace, your happiness, and your mindset. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. For what? For someone else? Why? Why would you do that for someone else? Like, it's your life. You are living it. Like what's that? Who is it that says it? Is it Lil Wayne? Or they say, like, it's your world and they're just in it. Okay? It's so true. It's your life. It's your world. It's your perspective, your experiences, your mindset, your happiness, your emotions. Everybody else is just there. And guess what? They're living their own life. Half the time, the people you worry about and stuff, they don't care about you. They don't worry about you. They don't. And do you ever notice that sometimes when you need help, those people that you helped are not there to help you? Because they don't care. Or they have understood and found that that is something they're not willing to do. They're not willing to compromise. They're not willing to help you, but they would like you to help them. It's a one-way street there. And you've got to learn and understand that those are then the people that you can't help anymore. If you're not going to be there for me when I need help, then I can't be there for you anymore. I just can't. I can't keep giving in to this one-way thing and getting nothing. That's exhausting, okay? Don't do that. Being around somebody negative is exhausting. Trust me, I know, because I used to be a very negative person. I struggled with it for a very long time, okay? I still have my moments, because thoughts are thoughts. I still have those kinds of thoughts. It's not like they just magically disappear one day, but it's easier for me to manage and easier for me to handle now. And that's what I'm trying to help you guys get to, that point where you're able to be okay with putting yourself first. You're able to be okay with protecting your peace, your happiness, your mindset, and all of that. You don't have to help everyone. You can't help everyone. And some people are going to take advantage of you. It may take you a little while to realize that that's what they're doing. But once you realize it, since you'll have all the tools already, you'll immediately be able to cut that person off. You'll immediately be able to say, you're taking advantage of me. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I thought this was going to be. I'm done. Don't be afraid to cut off friends. Don't be afraid to cut off family. Don't be afraid to stop watching the news, or unfollow people on Facebook, or unfollow people on Instagram. Don't be afraid to, when you're having a conversation with somebody and it starts getting negative and you're starting to stop the conversation. Don't feel bad about doing that. Your job, your purpose is to make yourself happy, to experience things on this earth that you enjoy. that you want to do, that you are willing to do. Why are we giving away so much of ourselves at the sacrifice of our own happiness, of our own resources? Why are we doing that? It's again, I get it. We want to help others. But like I said in the last video, or the one before that, when you are broken, you can't afford to help others. You can't. And a lot of us have been a certain way for a long time. Get rid of that phrase, we're stuck in our ways. No, we're not. We're not stuck in our ways. We just need extra help getting out of it. Okay? You know, like sometimes when your tires get stuck in the mud, right? Sometimes after some spinning and some, you'll get out of it, right? Or maybe you put a little board under there or something and you get out of it. Maybe you got to push it a little bit, but you get out of it. Maybe you're so deep into the mud, you need somebody else to tow you, to pull you out of it, right? But you still get out of the hole. You still get out of the mud. Just some of us are just barely in the mud. So all we needed was to hit the gas a little harder, or all we needed was to just put a little board down and we got unstuck. But some of us, yes, are deeper into the mud. But we're not so deep that you just abandon the vehicle. You're deep in there, but you call a buddy or you call a tow company and you say, hey, get me out of this. But at a price, right? You either have to use some resources, use some friends, pay some money, do some work yourself, or maybe you got to do all those things. But the only people that are stuck in their ways are the people who think they are stuck in their ways. The people who don't think that you can change. The people who basically don't want to do the work. Or it's just something they don't think that they can do. Or maybe they've never seen someone else do it or somebody else in their family. It's just been passed on for generations, this way of living that, oh, well, my mom didn't change it, so what do I have to change it? But then their daughter does the same thing. Well, you don't want better for them? You gotta start changing some things, okay? Sometimes maybe it does take that daughter that comes after to start changing things. Because let me tell you, I am nowhere near the same kind of mindset my mom has. Okay? And that's a good thing. Okay? And but I understand, okay? Because it is a lot of work. It's not something you do once and you're fixed. It's not something that you wake up one day and you're like, I'm gonna be different. And then you're different. Like, for some of you, actually probably for all of us, okay. For some of you, it's going to be easier to start the change. It's going to be easier to get that momentum going. It's going to be easier to get out of the mud. Some of you might get out a little bit, realize that board that you're using started to help and now it's not, and so you're back in the mud and you gotta get some more reinforcements or some more help to get you out. Some of you might take a very long time to get out of the mud. Maybe you sit there and the wheels are spinning. And you're thinking, oh yeah, I got this. And then all of a sudden, oh no you don't. So then you put a board down and you're like, oh yeah, we got this. But instead the board just sinks in there too. And you're like, oh my gosh, okay, well, we've tried 2 different things. The car's been sitting there for 3 months. Okay, maybe we need to try this. You get somebody to push it. You put the board down. You're spinning the tires. 6 months later, the car is still stuck in the mud. Until one day you're like, hey, Let me hire a tow truck to get me out of the dang mud. And then you're out of the mud. But you have to still be diligent, still work on things, still be aware, so that way you don't get stuck in the mud again. Because who wants to get stuck in the mud again? Maybe every single day that you're driving, you need to check the weather. You need to check the route you're driving on. You need to check if you have the proper tools to get out of the mud if you get stuck again. All these things you need to ensure that you have for the rest of your life so you don't get stuck in the mud again. Or maybe you do so good that you don't ever see mud the rest of your trip. But you still have to be aware. You still have to check the weather. You still have to make sure you have the tools. Because if you don't, if you think, oh, we're good, I got out the mud, let's go, I don't need those tools, I don't have to check the weather, I'm good to go, and 2 days later you're in the mud again. But guess what? You don't have the tools because you didn't think you needed them. You thought you were fixed the first time. You thought you were never going to run into mud again. To think that you're never going to run into mud again, that'll get you stuck. That's wishful thinking. But you can be better prepared for the times that you might start to get stuck. It'll be easier to get out once you have all the tools. It'll be easy to call a buddy and then know which buddy to call to help you out. But if you're somebody who's barely stuck in the mud, right? You could easily just drive out, right? But you get out of the car and you go, oh my, we're stuck in the mud. How are we gonna get out? And you start freaking out because you're like, oh my God, the mud. When really you're this far into the freaking mud and you could just get out. But you freak out, you panic, you think you're freaking stranded and you have no one to help you. You have no tools. So then slowly, the car starts sinking deeper and deeper into the mud. If you freaked out when you were only in this much mud, I can't imagine how you're going to act when half your tire's in the mud. How are you going to get it out? Especially when you don't have the tools, because you just immediately started freaking out. And you didn't learn any of the tools. You don't have any of those tools. You don't know who to call to help get you out. How are you going to get out? Those are the people that think they can't change. Those are the people who think they can't get their car out of the mud. Oh, you can. Your car might be ruined. You might need to get some new tires. Maybe you need to just get a brand new car. But you're not doomed to be stuck there. You shouldn't just abandon your car because you're stuck in this much mud. Some of you think that running away from your problems will solve the problem. It's the complete opposite. You have to face the problem and deal with the problem and learn from the problem and get the tools from the problem. So when the problem arises again, you know how to handle it. But if you just keep running from it and that problem arises again, what's going to happen? Let's say you were that person who let it get this deep in the mud. And you said, well, I'm just going to go get a brand new car. I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to leave it. And I'm going to abandon it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to bury it. It's just going to stay in the mud. 10 years later, it's fully buried. You got a brand new car, but you didn't learn any of the tools. You don't have nothing. You still don't know who to call if it happens again. And guess what? It happens again. Your car gets stuck in the mud again. Then what? You gotta freak out again because you didn't learn anything from your last time it got stuck in the mud. You just ditched it. You just left it. You just thought, oh, if I don't think about it, it'll disappear. My problems will disappear. No, they won't. They will come back. And sometimes they come back worse than they did the first time. So then what do? Do you freak out again and enter this just continuous cycle of freaking out ditching it, ignoring it happening again, freaking out, ditching it, ignoring it, and thinking you can't change it? Or do you finally say, after the fourth car you got stuck in the dang mud, I've had it, I'm tired of getting stuck in the mud, what do I need to do to stop getting stuck in the mud? Which maybe you should have learned that on car number 1. But it took you a little longer and you learned it on car number 4. That's okay that it took you to car number 4 to finally make the change. That's okay. Some of us, we're uber prepared and we know what to do before the car even gets stuck in the mud the first time. Some of us, it takes car number 1. Well, hey, something's not right here. We got to fix it. Some of you, car number 4 might be where you're at. Some of you might be on car like 40. And you're just stuck in that cycle. And you think you're stuck in your ways and you think you can't get out of it because this is what you've been doing for 30 years. You can, but understand it's going to be a little harder for you because you have 30 years of, I was going to say something else. You have 30 years of baggage, we'll say, that has never changed. It's just compounded and exploded and compounded and exploded and compounded and exploded, that at this point the only way you know how to handle it is to just ignore it and hope for the best. That's going to be harder for you than somebody who realized on car number 1 that they needed to fix it, that they needed to change something, that they needed to get the tools, that they need to understand it's not time to freak out right now. It's just a little bit of mud. We can still get out of this. We can still make changes. It's going to be much easier for them than it is going to be for somebody who's on car 30. Somebody who's on car 4, it's going to be easier for you than somebody on car 40, but not as easy as somebody on car number 1. But that doesn't mean that you're doomed to live like that for the rest of your life. The only way, like I said before, that you are doomed to live like that for the rest of your life is if you think you are doomed to live like that for the rest of your life. Nobody can change your mind. You are stuck in that thinking and you can't get out of it because you don't think you can change. Maybe you think you've tried to change, like I mentioned 2 videos ago, but you only tried to change for 4 hours and it didn't work. I'm telling you, it takes a lot more than 4 hours. You're going to be the one who is stuck in their way because you think you can't change it. You think you've done all you can do when in reality you haven't done a single thing. Or it's something that you just are not willing to do. Those are the only type of people that will ever be stuck in their ways. So if you think like that at 20 years old, you're going to have a hard time. It doesn't mean that you can't change. But having that mindset at a younger age of, like, if you're just a very closed-minded individual, well, you might have these struggles for the rest of your life. If you're somebody who's very open-minded, whether you're 55 or 25, this is going to be way easier for you. You have an open mind on these things. But some people do believe we as humans are set in our ways from day one and that we can't change that. But from day one, we have nothing. We're a freaking baby who doesn't think, doesn't see, can hear, but like doesn't freaking just laying there. Like we have nothing. What molds us and shapes us is our environment, society, our parents, the school we go to. So what makes you think that we can't change that? There are people who are living a much better life than us and people who are living worse lives than us. People who come from a worse life but surpass our life. So if we can't change, how is it that these people who were in a worse situation, who should be destined to live like that forever, somehow end up surpassing us? Doesn't make any sense, right? Same with people who are like destined to be rich because they were born that way and they lose everything. How? If we can't change, then how do those things occur? Okay? We got a lot to get through. But I promise you it's going to be a series that benefits you, that helps you. You have to put in the work though. But be open-minded and understand that you can live a better life. You can live a more positive life. You can live a happier life. But it starts with you spending time alone. You have to. If you've got kids, if you've got a husband, find someone to watch the kids for 4 hours one day while your husband's at work. And just sit in the silence. Don't worry about the housework. Don't worry about your husband coming home. Don't worry about the kids that are with grandma and grandpa. Don't worry about whatever work you got to get done. Don't worry about the gym. Don't worry about cooking dinner. Nothing. Sit in the silence by yourself. And just maybe the first hour, just sit there. Let your thoughts run. Let everything run. Let it run through your brain. If you cry, you cry. If you get angry, you get angry. If you just sit there and really don't know what to think, that's okay. And then after that, start asking yourself questions. Who are you? And get rid of the whole, well, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. Get rid of that. Who are you as an individual, independent from the family, from the wife, from the mom, from the daughter, from the... This also works for men, whatever. Everybody do this, okay? And sit there and really think about who you are as a person. Are you who you remember you were? Are you someone you don't recognize anymore? If that's the case, then continue to sit there and think about what parts of you do you not recognize? What parts of you do you recognize? What parts of you do you wish you had back? What parts of you do you think you will never get back? And sit there and just really think about these things and answer these questions. And the more that you figure out who you are wanting to be, then start thinking about the things that you enjoy and the things that you don't enjoy. But you have to do this more than once in order to solidify this. Maybe if you can, get someone to watch your kids for 4 hours, one day, a week. And do it for a month. Do it for 3 months. Just tell a relative, hey, I work now from these hours to can you watch, I'll give you $50, whatever, or if they'll watch them for free, whatever, but you have to find that time where there's no distractions, there's no worrying about everything else, where you can spend by yourself really thinking about these things, because then as things come up, as life goes, you'll be able to make better decisions. You'll be able to be confident in who you are because you know who you are. You'll be confident in the decisions that you're making because you know what you want and what you don't want. You'll be able to have better relationships because you're now doing the things that you know you want to do. Okay? We'll continue to get into this stuff throughout the whole series. We're always going to come back to spending time alone. It's extremely important because the one person you live your entire life with is you. Okay, everybody else comes and goes. It's an unfortunate part of life, but everybody comes and goes. You will not spend your whole entire life with your children. You don't spend your whole entire life with your mom. You don't spend your whole entire life with your significant other. You don't spend your whole entire life with your friends. The only person you spend your whole entire life with is yourself. So you might want to start liking yourself. And if you don't, then you might want to start making some changes. With that being said, again, we'll get more in detail to all this. I'll give you guys some tips and things to do to help you get through this and get to these points and solidify these things and maintain these things. We will get into all of that. So please share this video with your friends. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment below if there's anything else you want me to talk about. Those of you that do subscribe to the channel and do comment, you will be entered in our giveaways that we will be starting in the new year. So be sure to look out for those. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.